Tyre Nichols. I'll tell you what those charges are and what comes next in this process.
Attorneys representing two of the officers charged in Tyre Nichols' death said that they will be pleading not guilty. We'll have more from those attorneys coming up.
Welcome to Thursday night, my friends. I'm Fox 13 Chief Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey. Another cold night for tonight, but temperatures looking a lot better for tomorrow. But we'll talk about the weekend and next week with some changes on the way in your weather forecast.
Fox 13 News at 10 starts now.
Justice for Tyre.
Justice for Tyre.
We can do better than that, man.
Justice for Tyre. Justice for Tyre. Justice for Tyre.
A candlelight vigil to remember a man who died, a father and a son. That man, Tyre Nichols, is believed to have lost his life at the hands of Memphis police officers.
Today, 5 of those former police officers have all been charged in the death of Nichols.
Be clear, what happened here does not at all reflect proper policing. This was wrong. This was criminal.
Well, tonight we have learned that 2 of the 5 officers charged with murder in this investigation are now out on bond. Those 2 families, we're talking about Desmond Mills and Justin Smith. We know that the other 3 former officers are expected to be released soon. Meanwhile, an emotional night as family and friends and others held a candlelight vigil tonight.
Again and again and again. And we ask you, oh Lord, why each and every time we come out here with our candles and with our tears and with our prayers and with all that we have in us, asking why, Lord, why?
One of the many voices heard at the vigil tonight at Toby Skate Park in Midtown Memphis.
Fox 13, of course, we have been on top of this story all week. We begin our team coverage tonight with Fox 13's Lakia Scott.
Lakia, you were there at the candlelight vigil with the family tonight. Most notably, Tyre's mother was there. Talk to us about what you saw.
Daryl, Darcy, as you just heard from that clip you played, it got very, very emotional out here today. Of course, everyone is out here in remembrance of Tyre, in honor of his life. Now, folks, they were asking for change. Those protesters were demanding that some changes and some ordinances are renewed here in the city and in the county. Now, this is Toby Skate Park. Now, of course, they filled this park here earlier on today. It has since cleared out, but they were here just asking again for change, chanting passionately, justice for Tyre, justice for Memphis. We will not accept what you have done. Now, this is in recognition of that January 7th day that Tyre had an encounter with MPD officers. Tonight, this group, they vowed to fight for new ordinances by both the city and county governments. And one skateboarder that I spoke with tonight calls on city council and says that this was a huge loss.
A skateboarder to be taken out that way, right, is it's a type of loss where it's somebody that you could have met, but now you don't have that opportunity. City councils need to pass policy, right? We need all interaction with police tracked. We need to disband Scorpion.
Y'all are murdering people. Yes. Y'all are pulling up on people buying pizzas with guns to their head. Yes. Trying to go home. Tyre was just trying to go home.
And Tyre's mom, Rovon Wells, was also in attendance here tonight, and she's expecting those protests to kick off. But one thing that she did urge was that those protests be done peacefully in her son's name. Darcy, Daryl.
That is Fox 13's Lakia Scott reporting for us tonight. Well, the attorneys hired by the Nichols family released an open letter today on the Memphis Police's Scorpion squads, asking that Tyre's death spark a change in the way these organizations are used and operate. Now, the letter says in part, officers tend to focus on Black and brown members of the community and feel empowered to conduct pretextual stops or stops without probable cause, saying that they are proactively looking for guns or drugs. These often aggressive encounters flat out destruct trust between police and the communities they are sworn to protect and serve. But as we saw in the tragic and unnecessary death of Tyre Nichols, can also lead to physical injury or death when the culture of unchecked, proactive policing overtakes common sense.
The 5 former officers are now the subject of an investigation, of course, one that may explain the death of Nichols days after that traffic stop. District Attorney Steve Mulroy laid out the criminal charges earlier today that they're facing and the next steps.
Well, Fox 13's Kayla Solomon is joining us live downtown. Kayla, you were there for today's press conference. DA Mulroy talked about how swiftly both his office and the TBI moved to bring these charges forward.
Darcy, just to do some of the math for you, that initial traffic stop and incident with police happened 19 days ago, and Nichols died in the hospital 16 days ago. So this has all happened within a 3-week time span. And at this point, what the public wants is another piece of the puzzle, that body cam footage. In that press conference today, one thing that Mulroy did allow were questions towards the end. He said he couldn't answer some of them, and once the video drops, the public will get a real glimpse at why the 5 officers were charged with 7 different charges and why they were fitting. The most severe of the 7, second-degree murder. Someone in the crowd did ask Mulroy for a timeline of how long this police encounter lasted and what the MPD policy violations were. Mulroy gave a brief answer, and afterwards I spoke to one community activist who says she was not buying the swift action to indict that was mentioned.
After some period of time of waiting around afterwards, he was taken away by an ambulance. Beyond that, I don't really think we should go into any further details.
So there was a delay in a call. The police delayed calling an ambulance for.
There was an elapsed period of time, but I believe that if you watch the video, you'll be able to make that judgment for yourself.
Swiftly is not fast enough when the public has been asking for this for quite some time.
Now, again, it's been almost 3 weeks, and we are expected to be able to finally see that video tomorrow after 6 p.m. We don't have an exact time, but we should be able to see some body cam footage, maybe some sky cop or dash cam footage as well after 6 p.m. Friday. Daryl, Darcy.
That is Fox 13's Kayla Solomon reporting for us today. Thank you, Kayla.
All right, we're going to bring back in now Van Turner. He's the president of the Tennessee chapter of the NAACP. As we continue our exploration of today's events and, of course, the cases moving forward. You know, one of the things I wanted to touch on with you, Mr. Turner, was the federal case, the civil rights case against these officers. And I didn't realize this today, and shame on me for being ignorant of this, but I had no idea that civil rights abuse and official abuse by police officers can carry the death penalty.
Yeah. I mean, it can get serious, and you just have to think, you have ultimate power with a gun and a badge to take someone's life. When you pull someone over, that person's life is essentially in your hands. And so you're giving an unusual amount of power and authority over individuals in the community, yet you're trained and you're asked to exercise that authority with fidelity. As we see in this case, that just did not happen. And so when you say death penalty in some extreme cases, then, you know, that is logical, and you can see why that is so.
I do have an interesting question, because I've been thinking about it. We have seen this moment time and time again in our country, but this moment came to light, of course, because of the sky cam video and the body cam video. Yeah. So now we know. We'll know actually Friday at 6 o'clock really what happened. What are we saying to those in the community? How do you begin to build that level of trust with the people that are supposed to be out there protecting and serving? The word humanity has come up several times over the last several days. Many people have felt that they didn't see Tyre Nichols as a human being.
Right.
Where's that level of trust with those who are supposed to protect and serve every day?
Yeah, you know, I think that this is something that's tested the trust, and we have to be honest, and we have to really, you know, view it from the standpoint of the Tyre Nichols family, the Nichols family, and what they're having to endure. But I think we can find solace in the fact that we have respect for law enforcement, the badge, and the office, although we have lost respect and we have lost confidence in these 5 officers, that doesn't necessarily mean that we lose respect for the profession of law enforcement. We've had elected officials who've not done well and who've acted out and who've abused their authority. But that doesn't mean we should lose faith in all public servants. The majority of public servants are there to do the correct thing. The majority of police officers are there to do the correct thing, and they do. It's unfortunate that we have bad police officers, but they should not be indicative of how we feel about law enforcement as a whole. I think we can, we're smart enough and we're intelligent enough to make the difference, and I think we should do so in this case. These 5 officers are in no way indicative of the entire police force, and these 5 police officers need to be prosecuted. They need to be brought to justice, but that's that. I think after that, we should not view the other officers as being these types of officers who have just committed this atrocity.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. One more thing. Talk to us moving forward about the NAACP's role in this specific case, because we've seen nationally the NAACP play such significant roles in different cases, from Ferguson, Missouri to Minneapolis to Virginia to Georgia. So talk about what the role of the NAACP will be in this specific case, as far as you can go.
Yeah, I mean, we would be here to serve as advocates for the community. We will be here to stand with the Nichols family in demanding justice to the extent that there's support needed on the legal front, and there's a well-able legal team already in place, and so I doubt that will be the case. But to the extent that that's needed, we would do so as well. If you've seen the work of the NAACP, Mason, Tennessee, and other cases, we can go to court. Right. We can fight in the legislative halls, and we can fight it out in the streets when we support protests and demonstrations. And so the NAACP is there for the family. We're there for the community. We're there to demand justice for Tyre Nichols. And so I think that's where we've been at since 1909. We're not going anywhere. And so we're going to be here for this case. We're going to be present, and we're going to fight for justice.
Well, keep doing what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Memphis Chapter President Van Turner is joining us tonight. Thank you so much for taking time out and being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Now, the funeral services for Tyre Nichols is planned for next week. Mourners will pay tribute to him Wednesday, beginning at 10:30 that morning at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church. Civil rights leader, the Reverend Al Sharpton, will be there. He will deliver the eulogy after being requested by the Nichols family.
We will continue to follow breaking news updates on the Tyre Nichols case on, of course, Good Morning Memphis. That starts at 4:30 tomorrow.
So be sure to sign up for customized breaking news alerts on the Fox 13 News app, which is available in the App Store and on Google Play. You're watching Fox 13 News at 10.
But 2 of the former officers charged in Tyre Nichols' death said that they will plead not guilty to the charges against them, according to their attorneys.
Fox 13's Mandy Rock is live in downtown Memphis. Mandy, you heard from those 2 attorneys today. They said that they're prepared to take on this case, even though it's huge.
Yes, that's right. They sure did. And today we heard from Blake Bowlin, who's representing Desmond Mills, and also from William Massey, who's representing Emmett Taylor. They said Emmett Martin, excuse me. They said that they spent the week getting to know their clients, and they're thinking about potential defenses. We know that Mills's bond was set at $250,000 and Martin's was set at $350,000. Their lawyers confirmed the bonds have been posted, but did not say if Mills and Martin are out of custody yet. Bowlin said Mills is known as a gentle and respectful father, and Massey said everyone deserves a defense and reminds the public that a person is innocent until they are proven guilty.
One out there that night intended for Tyre Nichols to die. No one. No one. Police officers have a very difficult and dangerous job, and sometimes a thankless job. And it's probably one of their worst fears that something like this would happen on their watch.
And the attorney said that they have not seen the video yet of that altercation between the officers and Nichols, and they're anticipating that release along with everybody else. Back to you.
That's Fox 13's Mandy Rock live in downtown Memphis tonight. Mandy, thank you.
Of course, we have criminal defense attorney Andre Wharton joining us tonight. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Andre, now this is just us talking here. We've not heard anything to this, as far as this is conjecture on our part, but it is a possibility, I guess. What are the chances of that defense team getting an audience with the judge tomorrow and saying, we don't want that video released? This is not fair to our clients. We haven't seen the video, and this is, it's not fair to us.
And I'm going to add to that, because we know that attorney Blake Ballin, his client, I believe, is Desmond Mills. Ballin was the one who came out today and said, okay, DA Steve Morey has had something to say about what happened. TBI has had something to say about what happened. But as far as I know, the client that he's just recently met, quote, he called him gentle, a respectful father, dedicated to law enforcement. How do you begin to approach this case? Again, this video has not come out just yet.
Yeah, could they file an injunction? Is that a possibility?
I mean, sure, they can file a motion or some petition with the court for a protective order, or some, you've heard the phrase used, gag order, something that would prevent this video from reaching the public consumption. But again, I have to, like you said, this is a lot of conjecture. I have to defer to them on what their strategy will be. But surely that may be something that's in consideration if you're looking at the effect this will have on your potential jurors who have to hear this case. And that's why I mentioned earlier about justice. Just as the family deserves justice and the community deserves justice, these defendants, these gentlemen that are charged with these crimes, they deserve justice too. And I think Blake Ballin and Bill Massey are going to see to it that their clients get a fair shot. So everybody wants that to happen.
Andre, where do you begin to poke holes in a case like this? Something that was said earlier, that District Attorney Steve Morey said each officer played a different role, but it was the actions of all of them that led to this young man's death.
Sure.
This video, we have not even seen at this point. It doesn't come out until tomorrow, but what everyone has said about it, it was violent, it was egregious. How do you begin to poke holes in a case? And it hasn't even gotten started yet.
No.
Sure. Guilt in many instances, and I'm sure these attorneys, they're very capable attorneys, guilt is individual. But as D.A. Moore indicated, you have what's called the doctrine, and he didn't talk about this specifically, but there's a doctrine of criminal responsibility for the conduct of another. And I imagine some of the theories as it relates to relative degrees of culpability and guilt, some individuals may have been more active in terms of their actions. Others may have been passively involved, but they were present. You look at these concepts such as the duty to intervene. Did someone have a duty to step up and say, hey, wait? And so were you complicit in conduct, and does that make you criminally responsible? I think that's what you heard about each person being from the holistic standpoint, responsible for this homicide.
And is that why the bonds were different?
Yeah. I imagine, it's going to be an individual thing, based on the conduct and what the affidavit says the individuals did or did not do. The bond may differ in the relative degrees of their involvement. So that's what you saw probably in those bonds.
One of the other things that struck us in that news conference today between Leslie Ballin and Bill Massey, and it was Massey who said, Bill Massey, of course, representing Officer Martin, if I'm not mistaken. He said that he would not push for a change of venue in this case, despite the fact that a jury pool could be tainted. And that seems almost counterintuitive to me. Wouldn't you want this case as far away from Memphis as you could?
Well, I mean, again, that's a strategy decision, and lawyers have to determine what's going to be the best strategy for their client. And I've known Mr. Massey for quite some time. He's a very capable attorney. He's going to look at it objectively, but for various reasons, you may want a Shelby County jury to hear this case. And right now, who knows? His position may change as things start to develop and they do their research and their investigations. But for whatever reason, he thinks he's going to get the best shot for his client right here in Shelby County. So.
This is going to be a very major case. We know that all eyes in this community are on it, but also all eyes in the nation are on this one as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wharton, for being with us tonight. We do appreciate your time.
And very quickly, I need to apologize to Blake Ballin. I called him Leslie Ballin. I've interviewed Leslie Ballin dozens of times over the past decade. Yeah. So, Blake, my apologies there. It's Blake Ballin. Thank you, Andre.
Thanks for having me.
Switching gears, I'm Fox 13 Chief Meteorologist Andrew Humphrey. Still mighty chilly out there. Temperatures now only 2 degrees above freezing, down 1 degree since last hour. 34 over at the airport, a calm wind, so wind chills not as low as they have been in the recent past. We are looking at some temperatures that are below freezing already, though, in the 20s even, 27 in Bolivar, 30 over in Dyersburg right now. West Memphis, I see you. We're looking at you with 34 degrees right now. High pressure overhead, that means stable air as we go through the night. We'll see fair skies continue, abundant sunshine for tomorrow. As that high pressure pulls away, some clouds start to filter in here from the southwest. Winds from the southwest will be a factor as well. We'll see higher temperatures tomorrow afternoon and a milder weekend with temperatures in the middle 50s. But that more moist air comes in. You see the bits of green that were showing up. Some sprinkles at first, late Saturday afternoon, developing into scattered light rain showers, maybe another 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of rain before the weekend is over. But the first half of your weekend remains mostly dry. And we're watching next week because things could change pretty drastically. When you get rain, that's when you have, believe it or not, in the clouds, it's actually cold enough to produce snow, even during the summertime. Well, as that rain, those precipitation particles, whether it's ice, whether it's snowflakes, fall into the warmer air, it comes down as rain when it melts. But when you have situations that may turn up next week with cold air at the ground, warm air in between, you can have freezing rain, and that means ice. If you have a larger sector of colder air and that precipitation particle goes through cold air, warm air, cold air, that's sleet, and that can that leads to ice. Colder air all the way through, that can mean snow. And odds are we'll see at least some rain by the middle of next week, but it may be cold enough to have either a rain-snow mix or even some sleet, which can lead to ice. So 31 degrees overnight, fair skies overhead, sunshine for tomorrow and temperatures around 55. 50s this weekend with rain coming in for the second half of it. Then all eyes on the middle of next week. It's still too early to tell, but we're on top of it for you. We could see rain and some sloppy weather middle of next week. We'll be right back.
Patients have started buying medical marijuana in Mississippi, and that's nearly a year after the products were legalized in that state. Mississippi Medical Marijuana Association said in a news release today that the first purchases happened yesterday at the Cannabis Company in Brookhaven and at 2 dispensaries in Oxford, Hybrid Relief and Star Buds. The majority of Mississippi voters approved a medical marijuana initiative in November of 2020.
Well, just ahead, we will have a final look at your forecast.